Have you ever wondered what it means to say that time began? It's such a strange idea, isn't it? That there was a moment, the very first moment, before which there were no moments at all, no ticking clocks, no flowing rivers, not even darkness, because darkness itself needs time to exist in. Scientists call it the Big Bang, but if you listen quietly, you might imagine it less as a bang and more as a whisper. The gentlest unfolding of something new, a bloom of existence so vast and so calm that its echoes still hum through your heartbeat right now. Every second you live began with that first flicker of time, the oldest rhythm in the universe. And though billions of years have passed since that first instant, a trace of that beginning still drifts through you, softly reminding you that you are part of the same unfolding story. We care deeply that you're here, you, listening now, existing in this small shared moment. Before we begin the story, tell us where in the world are you watching from, and what time is it there? Now, grab your coffee, tea, or simply get comfortable. Let's explore together. In the beginning, there was no before. The Big Bang didn't happen in time, it created time. Before that, there was no waiting, no passing, no stillness. There was only potential, a kind of cosmic breath held forever until suddenly it wasn't. Then, everything that could exist began to unfurl. Space stretched. Light scattered, matter danced into being. And along with all that movement came the very first measure of change. And that, in its simplest form, is what time is, the story of change itself. You could say that time was born the moment something became different from what it had been a moment before. When the universe was no longer a single, silent sameness, but a sea of gentle transformation. It's hard to imagine, isn't it? A universe that once fit into a single point smaller than an atom, expanding into everything you know, from the glow of your bedside lamp to the memory of your first sunrise. All of it, a continuation of that first motion, that first heartbeat of time. If you could have watched the birth of the universe, you wouldn't have seen fireworks. You might have seen light too bright to describe, yes, but also something else, an order forming out of pure energy. At first, the universe was too hot for atoms, too dense for stars. It was chaos, and yet it had direction. Time began to move forward. That direction, that flow, is something you feel every moment, though you rarely notice it. You feel it when you wake in the morning and realize a dream has ended. You feel it when a candle melts, when a cloud dissolves, when a child becomes an adult. Time moves one way and never turns back. But in those first seconds after the Big Bang, time didn't flow evenly. It rippled like waves in an infinite sea. Tiny fluctuations, quantum tremors, shaped the very structure of galaxies yet to come. Those faint ripples became the seeds of everything. Stars, worlds, even you. So when you breathe tonight, you're breathing in the rhythm that began then, the same unfolding that started time itself. Billions of years passed after that beginning. The universe expanded and cooled, and light began to travel freely through the dark. That light, the cosmic background radiation, still hums through the sky, a faint echo of the first dawn. If you close your eyes, you can almost imagine it, a soft static whispering through the cosmos, a lullaby sung by creation itself. And in a quiet way, it's still singing to you. Every second, billions of ancient photons pass through your skin, silent witnesses of time's beginning. They have traveled for nearly 14 billion years just to brush past the moment you call now. It's comforting, isn't it? To realize that even when you think you're still, you are surrounded by motion, by time flowing softly and visibly around and through you. But what is time, really? Physicists say it's one dimension among four: length, width, height, and time, woven together into a single cosmic fabric. When the universe was born, that fabric began to stretch, and it's been stretching ever since. Imagine the universe as a great breathing being. Every expansion, every second is another inhale. And in that breath, galaxies drift apart, stars are born, and life begins to wonder where it came from. And you, lying there now, listening, existing, are part of that same breath. You are not separate from the universe's unfolding. You are the unfolding. The atoms in your blood were once hydrogen in the first stars. The calcium in your bones was forged in stellar fire. And the rhythm of your pulse is the same pulse that began at the dawn of time. If you could listen close enough, perhaps you'd hear it. The slow ticking of the universe's invisible clock, not mechanical, not measured by gears or numbers, but by the quiet transformations of everything that exists. A star ignites, one tick; a galaxy spins, another; a thought forms in your mind, another. Each one a tiny moment, a gentle reminder that time is not something you chase or lose. It is simply the unfolding of being itself. Now as you lie here, feel the slow breath of existence move through you. The same breath that began when the universe began. The same pulse that carried through stars and atoms and oceans, all the way to this single, tranquil moment. Time didn't begin with noise or chaos. It began with quiet intention. A whisper of something new, something curious, something alive. It began with change, and change continues softly in you. So as you rest, remember every second that passes is not something lost, but something born. And somewhere in the vastness, time keeps moving forward, gently, eternally, carrying you with it. Long before clocks or calendars, before even the idea of hours existed, someone looked up at the sky and noticed something. A shadow that changed shape, a light that returned after darkness, a pattern soft but certain. That quiet noticing might have been humanity's first conversation with time. Imagine it, a person wrapped in animal hides, sitting by a fire at the edge of the ancient world. The night is heavy, filled with sound, wind, insects, the steady pulse of their own heartbeat. They look up and see the same stars you see now. And as they watch, they begin to realize that the stars are moving. Not fast enough to see, but slowly enough to feel. In that moment, without words or numbers, they become aware that something is passing. And from that awareness, time entered the human mind. It must have felt like magic. The way light returned after every dark. The way shadows stretched across stone, then vanished again. Each dawn a promise, each night a memory. Time was not measured then. It was felt. In hunger, in the seasons, in the aging of faces, in the slow melting of snow. They didn't know what minutes, or days, were, but they knew the feeling of waiting. Waiting for light, for warmth, for migration, for rain. To them, time was alive. It was a rhythm sung by the earth itself. Eventually, that rhythm became story. The earliest myths were not about gods of war or love. They were about the sky, about the cycles that returned without fail, the sun that died each night but was reborn each morning, the moon that disappeared only to return again, glowing whole, the stars that circled overhead, marking invisible paths across the heavens. To ancient eyes, this repeating order meant safety. Time was a guardian, a keeper of promise. You could plant seeds when a certain star appeared, or travel when a shadow reached a certain stone. The universe was a clock, and everything alive learned to listen to its ticking. Somewhere along the riverbanks of Mesopotamia, thousands of years later, that awareness became knowledge. People carved tall sticks into the sand and noticed how the shadows moved in arcs. Those were the first sundials. Perhaps the first human instruments built not to make sound or shelter, but to measure patience. They discovered that when the shadow was short, it was midday. When long evening approached, every movement of that shadow became a whisper of the universe's rhythm. But to measure time is also to realize that it's fleeting. Once you mark a moment, you notice it's gone. And so, along with knowledge came something new, longing. Humans began not only to see time, but to miss it. Think about that. The moment you measure something, you begin to feel its loss. The first person who marked a shadow's edge might also have felt a quiet ache. A realization that the day was moving away, and that there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. From that, perhaps came art, language, story, all the things we do to hold on to moments that won't stay. You still do it even now. Every photograph, every journal, every song, all small ways to hold time still for a heartbeat longer. Even this story you're listening to. It's a way of slowing the river, just long enough to admire the way the light dances on its surface. Time for ancient humans wasn't a straight line. It was a circle. Every sunrise mirrored every other. Every season returned. Life, death, rebirth, all repeating in harmony. It's only much later that we began to imagine time as something that moves forward, something that can be gained or lost. But to those early sky watchers, time was a wheel, eternal, balanced, endlessly returning. Maybe there's something to learn from that simplicity. Maybe time isn't something that leaves us. Maybe it turns, and when it turns far enough, it brings us back, to memories, to feelings, to familiar stars. In ancient Egypt, time was called Need and Djet, two kinds of eternity. Nihi was the endless cycle of renewal, the rising of the sun, the flooding of the Nile, the beating of a heart. Djet was the stillness beneath it all, the timeless order of the gods, unchanging, infinite. To live well was to move gracefully between the two, to flow with time, but also to remember that beyond every moment, something eternal is watching quietly. Maybe that's what you're doing right now, floating between the flow and the stillness, listening, breathing, resting in the rhythm of the present moment while knowing something much larger hums beneath it. Somewhere in the high desert, thousands of years ago, a person carved small holes in a rock so that sunlight would shine through only at certain times of year. It was a calendar, one of the first, not built to count hours, but to know when the sun would return to warm the earth again. A stone clock made not for urgency but for trust. It's gentle to think of that, isn't it? That timekeeping once meant faith, not deadlines. It meant listening, not rushing. Tonight, as you rest, imagine that same sky above you, the same one our ancestors watched, wondering if the sun would rise again. It did, and it always will until the universe forgets how to count its own moments. You are part of a very old story, the story of noticing. When you watch the shifting light through your window, or feel the day fading into night, you are doing the same thing the first humans did. You are watching time move softly through the fabric of the world. And maybe, just maybe, you'll feel that same quiet awe they felt, that whisper of something vast and endless folding you gently into its rhythm. So close your eyes now. The stars are still turning, the shadows are still stretching, and you are still part of time's endless watching. The same story, the same wonder, the same quiet noticing. Before there were clocks, calendars, or even language, there was light, the sun, our first storyteller. Every morning it would rise with a whisper of warmth, and every evening it would fall with a sigh of gold. And in between, it carried the rhythm that would become the heartbeat of everything we know. The sun didn't just light the world, it measured it. Every shadow that stretched across ancient soil, every spark that danced in an eye, every pulse of energy that made plants grow, all of it was time expressed as light. To follow the sun was to follow the flow of life itself. Even now, you feel it. The slow sinking of the day, the dimming of color, the way your body begins to quiet when light fades. You are still listening to that ancient rhythm, the whisper of the sun. Imagine yourself standing in a vast plain thousands of years ago. No city, no noise, just endless sky. The first rays of dawn spill across the land like liquid fire, and for a moment, you feel the world awaken beneath your feet. That feeling, that awareness that something has returned, is the same miracle that shaped every human civilization. The first farmers waited for it before planting seeds. Sailors guided their journeys by the angle of its light. Priests built temples aligned with its rising, and artists, centuries later, would still try to capture that impossible moment when the horizon begins to glow, the second before day begins. The sun gave humanity more than warmth. It gave us rhythm, and rhythm gave us order, comfort, meaning. But light, in truth, is not what it seems. What you see when you look at the sun isn't happening now. It takes 8 minutes and 20 seconds for sunlight to reach Earth. That means every sunrise you've ever witnessed is already a memory. The past, arriving late. You are always looking backward, even as you feel the warmth of the present. Isn't that strange? We live inside a delay, a gentle illusion of immediacy. When you open your eyes, you are already watching history unfold in real time. And yet the warmth feels so immediate, so alive, that we forget how ancient it truly is. Every photon of sunlight begins its journey deep inside the sun's heart. Their atoms fuse together in blinding pressure, releasing energy that drifts outward through dense layers of plasma. But the journey is long, unimaginably long. It can take tens of thousands of years for a single photon to escape the sun's core and finally burst into space. So the light that touches your skin today might have been born before human civilization even began. Each beam that warms your face carries a story that began before there were stories to tell. You are not just bathed in light, you are bathed in history. Every morning, when sunlight spills across your room, it's not just the start of a new day. It's a message, thousands of centuries old, finally reaching you. The ancients must have felt this intuitively. That light was sacred, that it connected the heavens and the earth. Many early cultures believed the sun itself was alive, Ra, the golden traveler across the sky. Helios, the charioteer of fire. Tanatia, the Aztec god of radiant movement. They built monuments not just to honor it, but to listen to it. Stonehenge, the pyramids of Egypt, the temples of Machu Picchu, all aligned with the rising or setting sun. These were calendars made of stone and shadow, poetry written in light. When dawn hit just the right angle, the stones would glow, and for that brief instant, the sky and the earth spoke the same language, and perhaps they still do. Because sunlight isn't silent. It speaks, not in sound, but in vibration. Every wave of light carries information, rippling across the universe at 299,792 kilometers per second. Each beam tells us something about the stars it came from, the gases it passed through, the distance it has traveled. Astronomers decode these whispers, faint spectra etched into the rainbow of light, and from them, they can tell what a star is made of, how hot it burns, and even how fast it's moving away. The sun's light is a constant letter from the universe, written in a language of color and wavelength. And every morning, without fail, it arrives at your window. There's something comforting about that the same light that kissed the surface of the first oceans now touches your skin. That it doesn't judge or hurry or change its pattern. It rises, it falls, and in between it paints every living thing with quiet consistency. The sun doesn't demand that you do anything. It just shines. And through that steady shining, everything grows, including you. Every cell in your body runs on borrowed sunlight. The warmth in your hands, the energy in your breath, even the rhythm of your heartbeat, all powered by photons that began their journey before your ancestors walked the earth. You are sunlight slowed down into living form, a pattern of starlight and time breathing softly in the dark. And maybe that's why sunsets make us quiet. They remind us of endings, yes, but also of return. Every descent of the sun promises another rising, the eternal circle that the first humans once felt so deeply. When you watch the light fade from gold to violet, when the first stars begin to appear, you are not losing something. You are participating in a rhythm older than language. The same rhythm that turns galaxies and tides and seasons. The whisper of the sun has always been there. Across civilizations, across dreams, across lifetimes. And when you finally close your eyes at night, you are simply turning with it, resting in the calm between two beams of light. Tonight, before you drift to sleep, picture the sunlight still traveling toward us through the void, silent, patient, unstoppable. Some of those rays began their journey before you were born, and some will still be traveling long after your name is forgotten. And yet, for this brief moment, they are yours, lighting your world, warming your breath, marking the present. You don't need to chase time. You only need to notice it. The same way the first humans did, in the glow of light, in the quiet fall of shadow, in the soft whisper of the sun that has never stopped speaking. Listen closely for a moment, beneath the hum of the world, beneath the murmur of your own breath. If you could somehow quiet everything else, you would hear a rhythm older than language. A slow inhaling and exhaling that has never stopped. It is the ocean, breathing, and through its endless motion, it has been keeping time since long before there were clocks, or even minds to imagine them. Every wave that curls toward the shore, every tide that rises and falls. These are the world's first seconds, written in water. The sea was Earth's first heartbeat. Millions of years before our ancestors looked up at the sky, life began to listen to this rhythm. Tiny single-celled creatures floated in the shallows, drifting with the pulse of the tides. They didn't know they were following time, but they were. When the moon pulled the sea outward, they rose with it. When gravity called it home again, they descended. And so, without ever being aware, the first forms of life learned to live by a lunar clock. Even now, that ancient pulse continues. Every drop of seawater moves in answer to the moon, an invisible conversation stretching across 380,000 kilometers of space. The moon whispers and the ocean responds. It's strange to think about how gentle that pull really is. The moon has no voice, no hand to touch the water. It simply moves through the sky, and through the subtle dance of gravity, the oceans rise to meet it. Every tide is a sigh, an inhale and exhale between two celestial bodies, and we, here on Earth, are part of that same dialogue. Every living thing that evolved in the sea carries within it the memory of that pull. The salt in our blood mirrors the chemistry of ancient oceans. Our hearts beat with rhythmic precision. Our lungs swell and empty, each a quiet echo of the planetary breath we came from. You are made of tides, and when you breathe in your sleep, you are still keeping time with the ocean. Long before there were calendars, people learned to read the sea. Fishermen, sailors, and gatherers watched how the tides shifted under each moon phase. They noticed how certain shells opened only when the tide was high, how crabs and fish followed invisible lunar schedules. They marked the days by the moon's bright face, waxing and waning, and by the sea's endless rhythm. In places like Polynesia and the British Isles, entire cultures developed calendars based on tides. For them, time wasn't a number, it was a movement. It was the shimmering return of water to sand, the gentle recession of waves into the deep. The ocean didn't tick like a clock. It breathed like a living thing, slow and patient, teaching humanity the language of cycles. Beneath the surface, coral reefs still keep their own calendars. Once a year, during a single full moon, coral polyps across miles of ocean release their eggs and sperm all at once. A glowing underwater snowstorm of new life. How do they know when to do it? They read the moonlight. Their tiny bodies can sense its faint silver pulse through the water. Even in the darkest depths, they feel the soft rhythm that has guided them for millions of years. In this way, the ocean remembers time more faithfully than we ever could. While we measure seconds and hours, the sea measures eternity in tides and moonlight. Every crest and trough, every drift and return, is another chapter in a story that began when the earth was still molten. There's a strange peace in realizing that time doesn't always move forward. In the sea, it loops, back and forth, like a wave. Each moment folds into the next, not as progress, but as repetition, as continuation. The water that touched the shores of ancient Pangaea still exists, still moves, still sings. The same molecules that once brushed against the skin of prehistoric fish may now fall as mist against your face on a windy beach. The ocean keeps everything, gently recycling its memories. Nothing is truly gone, only transformed, reshaped by time's soft current. Even sound moves differently here. In water, it travels faster, deeper, longer. A single whale song can drift for hundreds of miles, bending through layers of temperature and pressure. These songs can last for hours. Long mournful hymns echoing through a liquid cathedral. Scientists believe whales use these songs to navigate vast distances, following acoustic landmarks across the sea. But perhaps, in some deeper way, they are keeping time too. Each note a marker, a reminder: I am here, I am now. When you hear recordings of whale calls, stretched and slowed, you can almost feel the shape of time inside them. Vast, fluid, ancient. They are like the breathing the planet itself, stretched into music. If you were to stand on a quiet shore at night, listening to the tide slide in and out, you would be hearing something that has never stopped since Earth was born. Before there were continents, before there was even life, gravity and water were already performing this dance. And now, billions of years later, you stand as its witness, a momentary consciousness within an eternal rhythm. The same pull that lifts the tide also stirs your blood. The same moon that commands the sea also watches over your sleep. Everything that breathes is keeping time with everything else. The next time you see the ocean, try this. Listen. Breathe in when the waves rise. Breathe out when they fall. Feel how your body naturally sinks to its rhythm, as though you've known this timing all your life. Because you have. Time doesn't only live in clocks or stars. It lives in motion, in the tide that returns, in the lungs that expand, in the moon's endless arc. And as long as the sea continues to breathe, so will the world. When you drift to sleep tonight, imagine that you are floating just beneath the surface. The water is warm, weightless. The moonlight ripples above you, moving like liquid silver. Every swell lifts you higher, every fall lowers you back into calm. You are part of the same rhythm that has guided every creature, every tide, every breath since time began. Let the ocean hold you. Let it remind you that even time has a pulse, slow, patient, eternal. And tonight, as the world exhales, you are resting inside that breath. If you place a hand over your chest right now, you'll feel it, a steady rhythm, quiet yet insistent. Thump, thump, thump. It's been beating since before you took your first breath, and it will continue, faithfully, calmly, until your last. But what if I told you that your heartbeat is not only your own, that deep inside you in every cell, there lives an echo of the Earth's turning, a biological memory of time itself. You are not separate from the planet's rhythm. You are one of its clocks. Long before you could tell time with words or watches, your body was already keeping it. Inside your brain, just above the bridge of your nose, sits a tiny structure called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, a name that sounds impossibly complex for something so quietly magical. It's smaller than a grain of rice, yet it governs your entire sense of time. It listens to the light, to the rise and fall of the sun, and sets the rhythm for your body. Your temperature, hormones, appetite, and sleep. It's your internal sunrise, whispering when to wake, when to rest, when to dream. This little cluster of neurons is like a conductor, and the rest of your body is an orchestra. Each cell, your heart cells, your skin cells, even the bacteria in your gut, plays in time with that rhythm. Every 24 hours they perform their own part in the symphony of you. You don't need to think about it, you never have. The music just happens, precise, graceful, timeless. Your heartbeat follows its own pattern too. Doctors call it a sinus rhythm, but in truth it's closer to a song. A wave of electricity travels across the heart's surface, contracting muscle fibers in a dance of perfect timing. It's not mechanical, it's alive. And if you listen closely, it changes with your breath, speeding up when you inhale, slowing when you exhale. Even your heartbeat listens to you. This natural variation, that gentle speeding and slowing, is called heart rate variability. It's your body's way of keeping time flexible, like a musician who knows how to pause between notes. When you're calm, those pauses grow longer, more peaceful. When you're anxious, they tighten and rush. Your body literally plays a faster song when you're under stress, and slows down when it feels safe. So right now, wherever you are as you listen to this, try slowing your breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Feel how your heartbeat begins to follow, softening, steadying, sensing with your breath. That's your inner tide. It's easy to think of time as something external. Clocks, schedules, the turning of pages on a calendar. But for most of life on Earth, time has always been internal. The first living things didn't have watches or sundials. They had light, they had heat, they had rhythm. Tiny plankton still rise and fall in the ocean every day, migrating to the surface with sunrise and sinking again at dusk. Flowers open in the morning and close when the light fades, even if you move them indoors where no sun can reach them. They still know the time, as if their cells carry a secret memory of daylight, and so do you. Your body doesn't just respond to time, it anticipates it. Your temperature begins to rise before you wake. Your brain releases melatonin before you fall asleep. Your liver and stomach prepare for food hours before you eat, simply because they expect it. Every part of you is watching the clock, quietly and faithfully. There's a poetic kind of peace in this, knowing that you're not the one keeping track. Time isn't something you must chase. You're already moving with it. Even your breath follows the planet's rotation. Studies have shown that people's breathing rates subtly change throughout the day, slightly faster when the Earth faces the sun, slower when it turns toward night. You are, in a literal sense, breathing in rhythm with the spinning of your world. Perhaps that's why slow breathing feels so peaceful. When you exhale slowly, you're aligning yourself with the most ancient metronome there is, the turning of a planet beneath the stars. And when you sleep, your inner clock doesn't stop. It simply changes its song. Brain waves slow into long rolling patterns like waves on a calm shore. Your heart adopts a nocturnal rhythm, slower, more deliberate. Your temperature dips just a few degrees, a gentle biological moonrise. Even your cells take a breath. Some repair DNA, some clear toxins, others simply rest, waiting for the light to return. You are not unconscious when you sleep. You're just tuning into a deeper rhythm, a rhythm that all living things share. Imagine, for a moment, if you could see time inside yourself, not on a clock but as motion. Every heartbeat a pulse of light, every breath a wave of color, your cells glowing softly, turning like tiny planets around invisible suns. This is what time looks like when it lives inside you. Sometimes people say, time is slipping away. But that's not quite true, is it? Your body holds onto time. It breathes it, beats it, remembers it. Even the smallest cell inside you keeps the world's rhythm, a gift from a planet that never stops turning. And when you feel tired, or out of sync, or lost in the rush of hours, you can return to that rhythm. It's always there, waiting, in your chest, in your lungs, in your pulse. Close your eyes now and feel it. Not the ticking of seconds, but the quiet cycle of breath and beat. This is the rhythm that life has carried for billions of years. The same rhythm that guided coral and whales, flowers and tides. The same rhythm that began when the first spark of time ignited the universe. You are not outside of time. You are one of its keepers. Every cell in you is a clock made of stardust, ticking softly in harmony with all that exists. So tonight, as you drift to sleep, let yourself feel the slow pulse of the earth beneath you. Let your heart find its rhythm, and your breath its tide. The world is still turning. You are still keeping time. And that's enough. Rest now, little clock of the cosmos. The universe will keep the beat until morning. If you were to stand perfectly still in a quiet forest and simply listen, you might believe nothing is happening. But time is moving there, just very, very slowly. Every leaf unfurling, every ring inside a tree trunk, every grain of moss spreading over bark. It all moves in a rhythm too soft for the rushing human eye to notice. Yet that is time, too. It's simply whispering instead of ticking. The world is filled with beings who do not hurry. They live in another kind of time, one that stretches across centuries instead of seconds. And in their patience, they hold lessons we've almost forgotten. The oldest known tree on Earth is a great basin bristlecone pine named Methuselah. It grows quietly in the mountains of California, its twisted trunk older than the pyramids. Over 800 years of slow existence, it has survived ice ages, storms, and human history itself. But if you were to look at it, you might walk right past. It's not tall or grand. Its branches are gnarled, half dead, half living. Yet inside those rings is a record of nearly 5 millennia of time, each line a heartbeat, a memory a year. Trees do not rush to grow. They move with the earth's breathing. Their roots stretch downward while their branches reach upward, matching the rhythm of rain and sun. When the air warms, they wake. When winter comes, they sleep. They trust that time will come back around again. You could say that trees keep faith in the seasons. When scientists studied redwood forests, they found that some of the trees have been alive since the fall of the Roman Empire. Imagine that. A being that has seen every empire rise and fade, that has felt every dawn for 2,000 years, and still stands quietly, making oxygen for the rest of us to breathe. If trees could dream, perhaps their dreams would last centuries. Slow spirals of green and gold, rain and sunlight. They live so long because they waste nothing. Their time flows like sap, deliberate, patient, eternal. But not all of time's slowest keepers are rooted in the ground. Far beneath the ocean's surface, there are creatures whose hearts beat only a few times per minute. The Greenland shark, for example, glides through icy waters with a calmness we can hardly imagine. Its heartbeat is so slow that a single beat might take seconds to come, and it lives that way for hundreds of years, quietly, endlessly. The oldest known Greenland shark may have been born in the early 1600s, before telescopes, before Newton's laws, before clocks ticked as they do today. It has never seen the sun directly. It has never rushed for anything. Its life moves in slow motion, a dream that lasts centuries. Then there is the giant tortoise. It carries its home on its back, unbothered by the pace of the world. Its blood flows slower, its heartbeat gentler. When a tortoise walks, it moves like time made flesh, unhurried, graceful in its slowness. One named Jonathan still lives on the island of St. Helena at nearly 200 years old. He was born before electricity lit the world. He has seen generations come and go, felt the same sun on his shell that once shone on Napoleon, and he continues to simply be. To creatures like him, there is no hurry because there is no race. Time doesn't need to be filled, it only needs to be felt. Slowness is not laziness, it's a kind of wisdom. It's knowing that everything worth becoming takes time. The coral reefs we admire so much were not built overnight. They grew millimeter by millimeter, layering calcium skeletons year after year, until entire ecosystems bloomed around them. To watch coral grow would test a human's patience, yet it never doubts that its small effort matters. Perhaps that is the secret of all slow creatures' faith and patience. A forest grows this way too. A seed falls into darkness, waiting for years before sprouting. A sapling bends under wind, learning strength through resistance. Time is their teacher, and patience their art. Even rocks keep time, unimaginably slow, yet steady. Mountains rise, crumble, and rise again. You can see their wrinkles like the face of an ancient being who's been smiling for eons. Geologists say mountains breathe too. Not in air, but in shifts and expansions. In the movement of their molten hearts. It's a different kind of life, one that measures moments in millennia. The slowest processes of nature are often the most permanent. What rushes burns out quickly, what lingers tends to last. And maybe that's why slowness feels peaceful to us. Because deep down, our bodies remember that this was once our pace too. Before clocks, before deadlines, before electric light. We once lived by dawn and dusk, not by seconds and schedules. If you've ever watched a candle melt or snow fall silently, you've touched that older rhythm. It feels familiar because your body knows it. Your heart slows, your breath deepens. The mind stops grasping and starts simply being. That's the hidden miracle of slowness. It brings you back into sync with everything else that endures. It's the rhythm of stars aging, of trees expanding, of rivers carving valleys. Slow doesn't mean lifeless, it means lasting. Imagine lying beneath an ancient tree, feeling its rough bark against your skin. Above you, its branches stretch into the sky, full of whispers. Each leaf that falls is part of a clock you'll never see tick. And yet as it falls, it knows precisely when to let go. Time is not rushing there. It's simply unfolding, perfectly, peacefully. And you listening to this are part of that same rhythm. When you breathe slowly, you join the trees and corals, the tortoises and sharks in their great patient dance. You remember that your life doesn't need to hurry to be meaningful. Even stillness is a kind of motion. So tonight, if the world feels too fast, let yourself slow down. Close your eyes. Inhale deeply like the forest drawing in air. Exhale softly like a tide receding. You are allowed to take your time, because time itself takes you gently, not urgently. Somewhere in a mountain, a tree is still growing. Somewhere under ice, a shark is still gliding. And somewhere deep inside you, your own quiet patience is waiting to bloom. You are not behind. You are simply unfolding, at your own pace and your own beautiful rhythm. Time has always been there, but for most of human history, no one ever tried to count it. People once lived by the light of the sun and the pull of the moon. When the sky brightened, they woke. When it dimmed, they rested. Each season guided the next, like the pages of a living book that needed no numbers to be read. But then someone looked up at the stars and wondered, what if we could measure the invisible? That question changed everything. The first calendars were not made of paper. They were carved into stone. Ancient people noticed that shadows moved in circles. The same stars returned to the same places in the sky after a certain number of nights. Patterns repeated, and so they began to name them. Moons, days, years. It wasn't about control, not yet. It was about awe. Measuring time was humanity's first poem to the universe, a way of saying, we see you moving. Thousands of years later, Egyptians built obelisks that pointed toward the heavens. When the sun cast its shadow, they could tell the time of day by where the shadow fell. Time, for the first time, could be seen. They didn't yet have minutes or seconds, only the rhythm of light and shade. Each shadow was a brushstroke in the painting of a day. Imagine living then. Your day stretches like honey. You feel time not as a rush, but as a flow. Sunrise to sunset, work to rest, heat to cool. No numbers ticking. No alarms breaking silence, just the soft choreography of nature. But humanity's curiosity grew sharper. When we began to trade, travel, and build empires, we needed something more precise than the sun. The Babylonians divided the circle into 360 parts, the first geometry of time. From that came the 60-minute hour, the 60-second minute. It's strange, isn't it? Even now, every clock still echoes the math of a civilization that disappeared thousands of years ago. To measure time was to bring order to chaos. But every new boundary came with a price. The water clock was one of the first devices to keep time mechanically. A bowl filled with water would drip at a steady pace, each drop marking the passage of moments. It was beautiful and fragile, a physical heartbeat of time. If the air grew warmer, the water flowed faster. If the night grew cold, it slowed. Even then, time was never truly steady. Later came the sandglass, a perfect metaphor for life itself. Grains slipping through a narrow neck, one after another, unstoppable. Watching it was hypnotic. You could see time falling, but you couldn't stop it. Each grain of sand was a second, delicate, vanishing, irreversible. To watch it was to feel your own mortality in miniature. When monks began to pray at regular intervals, they invented the first mechanical clocks to keep their rituals precise. Iron gears turned behind stone walls, bells tolled through empty courtyards. For the first time, time became communal, not something you felt, but something everyone heard. The ringing of a bell told entire towns when to wake, work, and rest. But the moment time became measurable, it also became something you could lose. And that idea of being late, of falling behind, changed the rhythm of the human soul. Still, in those early centuries, seconds were not yet real to most people. The smallest unit of time they cared about was the hour, or perhaps the toll of a church bell. Seconds existed only in theory, tiny invisible threads too fine to hold. It wasn't until the age of sailors and scientists that seconds became the heartbeat of civilization. Navigators needed precise time to cross oceans. If you were even a few minutes off, you could end up hundreds of miles from your destination, and so came the invention of the marine chronometer, a clock so steady it could survive the rocking of the sea. Now time could travel. From that moment on, the world began to shrink. The rhythm of seconds connected distant lands. Telegraphs tapped in rhythm. Trains left in rhythm. Hearts beat in rhythm with machines. Humanity had done something remarkable and irreversible. We had captured time inside metal. But what is a second, really? It feels so small, but it is everything. Every breath you take, every blink, every heartbeat, all made of seconds. And yet, if you close your eyes and try to feel one, you can't. It slips through your awareness like air through fingers. Science later defined a second with astonishing precision. 9th 631 7 to 70 vibrations of a cesium atom. That's the pulse of the modern world. Every phone, every satellite, every heartbeat in the digital age moves to that invisible rhythm. We no longer look to the sky to tell time. We look to atomic motion. Time is now measured by the universe itself. And still, for all that precision, time remains a mystery. You can count a second, but you can't live in it for long. The moment you notice it, it's already gone. Some physicists say that time might not even exist as we imagine it, that it's not a river, but an illusion created by memory. What we call the past might simply be the pattern our minds leave behind, and the future, only the echo of expectation. If that's true, then seconds are not cages. They are brushstrokes in the painting of perception. Time is not something outside of you. It's something you create. The ancient water clock, the sandglass, the pendulum, the cesium atom, each was just our way of saying, we want to understand the heartbeat of the world. But maybe the truest way to feel time is still the oldest way, by listening. When you hear rain falling, waves breathing, your own pulse, that's time unmeasured, pure, present, infinite. The next time you look at a clock and feel that familiar rush, remember this: the universe doesn't know what a second is, only we do. And we made it up just to feel a little less lost in the endlessness. So breathe. You are not behind. You are right on time. Because time is always wherever you are. The story of time changed forever. Not with an explosion, not in a lab filled with machines, but in silence. A young man sat by a window in a small room in Bern, Switzerland. It was 1905, and the world outside was ordinary. Trams rattling, church bells echoing through cobblestone streets. But inside that quiet room, something extraordinary was happening. The young man's name was Albert Einstein, and his mind was wandering. He wasn't yet famous, not yet the face of genius. He was just a clerk reviewing patents for other people's inventions. But while his pen scratched paper, his imagination drifted toward something no one had ever dared to truly touch: the nature of time itself. Einstein once said his great ideas came not from equations, but from thought experiments. He liked to daydream, to picture impossible things. And one day, he imagined a simple scene. What if you could ride a beam of light? He closed his eyes and followed that thought. If you sat upon a ray of light, would time still pass for you? Would you see the world moving? Or would everything freeze? The answer, when he found it, would reshape the universe. For centuries, we had treated time like a river, flowing the same for everyone. No matter who you were or where you stood, a second was a second. Steady, universal, absolute. But Einstein's dream shattered that illusion. He realized something astonishing: time is not the same everywhere. It bends, it stretches, it slows down, or speeds up, depending on how fast you move and where you are. If you could travel close to the speed of light, your seconds would lengthen like taffy. Your heart would beat slower. Your aging would pause. To you, everything would feel normal. But to someone watching you from afar, you'd be moving through molasses. Einstein had discovered that time was not a constant. It was part of a larger fabric, woven together with space itself. He called it space-time. Imagine holding a sheet of soft fabric. Place a marble in the center, and the fabric dips. Now roll another marble nearby. It curves inward, pulled by that dip. That's gravity. But what Einstein realized was far deeper. Gravity isn't just a force pulling on objects. It's the bending of space-time itself. The sun bends the fabric of time around it, like a weight in a cosmic hammock. Planets move not because they're being pulled, but because they're following the curves in the fabric. And where the bending is strongest, near massive stars or black holes, time itself slows to a crawl. So if you were floating near the edge of a black hole, 1 minute for you might equal thousands of years for someone far away. You could look up, and in that single minute, watch galaxies age and die. The stars would flicker like the ticking of an impossible clock. Einstein's dream wasn't just a scientific revelation. It was a work of imagination, one that turned time from a ruler into a ribbon. And the ribbon could twist, it could fold, it could stretch infinitely. This was more than physics. It was poetry written in the language of the universe. In his quiet way, Einstein taught us that every no is unique. Your no is not the same as mine, even if we stand side by side. Time flows differently for each of us. It depends on speed, gravity, and motion, but also on perception. The clocks on satellites orbiting Earth tick slightly faster than the ones on the ground. Without Einstein's equations correcting that difference, your GPS would be off by miles. Every direction you follow, every map you trust, is guided by relativity. It's a daily miracle we forget to notice. And yet, for all its complexity, Einstein's dream came from something beautifully simple: curiosity. He never set out to dominate time, only to understand it. He once wrote, "The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious." That mystery, the shimmer of the unknown, was what guided him more than any equation. Perhaps that's why his theories feel so dreamlike. They don't confine time, they free it. They whisper that there is no single, perfect clock keeping the universe in sync. Only countless rhythms woven together into one cosmic song. If you listen closely enough, you can almost hear it. The deep hum of galaxies drifting through time. The pulse of light leaving a distant star, knowing it won't be seen for 1,000,000 years. The rhythm of your own heart, keeping perfect time inside your chest. Einstein's insight connected them all, the vast and the intimate, the cosmic and the human. He once described time as an illusion, but a persistent one. Maybe he was right. Maybe the past and future both exist layered on top of one another, and our consciousness just moves through them like a needle sewing moments together. If so, then you, sitting here, listening to this, are a traveler, not just through space, but through the fabric of reality itself. In his final years, Einstein was asked if he believed in immortality. He smiled and said, "The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." To him, nothing truly ended. Moments didn't die. They simply shifted position in the great tapestry of space-time. And when his old friend Michel Besso passed away, Einstein wrote to his family, "He has preceded me by a little in parting from this strange world." This means nothing. For us believing physicists, the distinction between past, present, and future is only an illusion. In those words, time folds quietly back on itself, comforting, endless, serene. So tonight, as you drift towards sleep, imagine riding that beam of light Einstein once dreamed of. No ticking clocks, no boundaries between seconds, only the hush of eternity moving with you, slowly, softly, endlessly. And remember, time doesn't just pass around you, it flows through you. You are part of the dream Einstein began, the dream where time itself learns to breathe. Time moves differently when your eyes are closed. It's strange, isn't it? You fall asleep for what feels like a moment, and then, somehow, it's morning. Or you dream for what feels like hours, wandering through cities of light or speaking to people you've lost, only to wake and find that just 5 minutes have passed. We've all felt it, the quiet mystery of how dreams stretch and fold time like fabric. It's not physics this time, it's perception. But somehow, it follows the same rhythm that Einstein once described time as relative, even here, in the theater of your own mind. When you fall asleep, your brain doesn't simply turn off. It begins an intricate, sacred routine, waves of electricity slowing and shifting like tides. Your heartbeat softens, your breath deepens, the edges of the world begin to blur. Inside your skull, tiny chemical messengers whisper to each other, it's time to rest, it's time to dream. In this softened world, the brain stops measuring minutes by ticking clocks. It measures them by feeling, by emotion, by narrative. The dream state, what scientists call REM sleep, is a realm where memory and imagination hold hands. Your brain's timekeeping centers loosen, and suddenly seconds can expand, twist, or dissolve entirely. A whole lifetime can play out before the alarm rings. In this way, your mind behaves like the cosmos itself, just as massive stars curve space-time. Powerful emotions bend the perception of time in your dreams. Fear stretches it, joy folds it, grief can stop it altogether. And somewhere in that strange gravity you wander, half aware, half free. The dream becomes your personal universe, shaped entirely by your subconscious energy. Every night, you are a traveler in a private relativity. Scientists have tried to measure dream time. In controlled experiments, lucid dreamers, people who know they're dreaming, were asked to count seconds or perform simple tasks while asleep, and the results were astonishing. Their dream seconds often matched the real-world seconds almost exactly, except when emotion took over. Then time began to bend. Just as Einstein's equations predict that gravity warps space-time, your brain's emotional gravity warps your sense of duration. When something in a dream matters deeply, the clock inside you slows down, allowing you to stay longer in that feeling, to linger in a memory or a place or a person. You've probably felt that too. A single dream kiss that felt endless. A moment of falling that seemed to last forever. A reunion that felt like an entire day before waking up in tears. That's the relativity of sleep. It's not written in mathematics, it's written in emotion. As your brain drifts deeper into REM cycles, time outside begins to lose meaning altogether. The body lies still. The eyelids flutter like tiny wings. Inside, whole worlds bloom, complete with weather, seasons, faces, and history. Your brain doesn't just replay reality, it builds it. Every dream is a simulation made from your memories, stitched together by the same creative spark that made you human in the first place. In that sense, dreaming is a nightly rehearsal of consciousness, a safe space to process the infinite. And like Einstein's universe, it has no single center. You can move through time, through moments, through people long gone. You can watch yourself from above or step into your own past. You can create a future that never was, and still wake feeling that it happened. If you think about it, every dream is a little universe that lives and dies in minutes. Stars rise, stories unfold, emotions burn bright and then vanish. Just like the cosmos itself, every dream begins in a kind of big bang, a burst of imagery from nothingness, and ends in quiet entropy fading into waking light. The brain repeats this cycle again and again through the night, like tides washing the shore. You drift through one universe, then another, until morning arrives and the last one dissolves, leaving behind only a trace, a feeling, a color, a name you almost remember. Scientists call sleep a reset mechanism, but it's also a form of time travel. In dreams, your memories are unstuck from chronology. You might walk into your childhood home, but it's built with the faces of people from your present. You might see a sunset that belongs to no real place. You might relive a moment of loss, but this time you get to say the words you never said. In this space, time is not linear, it's emotional, and your sleeping mind uses it to heal. That's why dreams often feel profound, even when they make no logical sense. They're your brain's way of sorting through existence. Not by sequence, but by meaning. Your mind doesn't care if something happened, before or after. It only asks, what did this feel like? In waking life, we are bound by clocks. But in dreams, we are free. We move at the speed of memory. We visit places built entirely from the whispers of our own neurons. We exist outside the tyranny of seconds. And maybe, just maybe, this nightly bending of time is the universe's most intimate reminder that you are part of its pattern. Because what is relativity, if not the ability to experience time differently? Einstein saw it in stars. You live it every night behind your closed eyes. When you wake in the morning, it's easy to forget the vastness of what just happened, to shake it off like mist. But inside you, those dream moments linger, shaping your mood, your intuition, even your creativity. In truth, we live half our lives in worlds that no one else can see. Each dream you've had is like a secret parallel timeline, one that disappears when the light returns, yet leaves quiet ripples through your waking heart. So tonight, when you lie down, remember this: as your body drifts, your mind will once again bend the laws of time. You will step outside the ordinary. You will build worlds and collapse them again, all before the clock moves a single hour. And when you finally wake, blinking in soft morning light, the line between dream time and real time will blur for just a second. That second, right there, is relativity. When you were a child, a single summer felt endless. A day at the beach could hold 1,000 small eternities. The smell of salt, the rhythm of the waves, the sound of laughter echoing through sunlight. Back then, time seemed generous. But somewhere along the way, it began to slip through your fingers faster than you could hold it. Years started folding into each other, quietly, effortlessly, like pages turning themselves. It's one of the strangest and most familiar sensations of all. Why does time seem to speed up as we age? Scientists and philosophers have wondered about this for centuries, noticing how the same clock that once felt slow and patient now seems to sprint. And the truth, whispered gently through decades of study, is this: time doesn't actually move faster, we do. You see, the human brain doesn't measure time by numbers. It measures by novelty, by how many new experiences, sensations, and emotions we encounter. To a child, everything is new. Every face, every color, every moment is a fresh pattern for the mind to absorb. And because of that, the brain records more frames per second, so to speak, more memories, more details. Time feels full, stretched wide and deep. But as we grow older, our days fill with familiarity. We travel the same roads, wake to the same routines, think the same thoughts. The brain stops recording so much, because it already knows what to expect. And without novelty, time begins to compress. There's a quiet sadness to that realization, and yet a hidden beauty too. Because if the perception of time depends on how much we notice, then perhaps by learning to notice again, we can slow it down. The secret, then, isn't in clocks or calendars, it's in attention. Every time you pause to feel the warmth of sunlight on your skin, every time you take a breath and truly listen to the rain on your window, Every time you stop scrolling, stop rushing, stop measuring your minutes, you stretch them. You create space inside them. And for that small, sacred moment, time moves at the speed of wonder again. There's a rhythm inside you that matches this truth. Your heartbeat, your breathing, your blinking eyes. All natural clocks that pulse in gentle, perfect tempo until the world outside begins to demand faster, louder, more. But the universe doesn't hurry. Planets orbit in silence. Galaxies drift for eons. Atoms vibrate in cycles too small for us to feel. The entire cosmos keeps time softly, patiently, and somewhere in that vast rhythm, your life unfolds, one heartbeat at a time. Some neuroscientists suggest that time perception is also tied to memory density. When life is vivid, when you travel, learn, fall in love, experience surprise, your brain creates more neural bookmarks. Each one acts as a milestone in the passage of time. But when days become repetitive, the mind smooths them into one continuous blur. That's why childhood summers feel endless, and adulthood winters vanish before you've even noticed them. Your brain is painting fewer details into the canvas. So, from a psychological perspective, the painting seems smaller. But here's the comforting truth: you can repaint it by doing something new, taking a different path home, tasting an unfamiliar food, watching the night sky without checking the clock. You reawaken the mind's curiosity. You invite time to widen again. It's not about chasing novelty for the sake of excitement. It's about rekindling the art of noticing. Because noticing is how time slows down, the poet William Blake once wrote. Eternity is in love with the productions of time. Perhaps what he meant is that the eternal, the infinite, finds beauty in our fleeting moments precisely because they don't last, because we feel them slipping away, and in that awareness we begin to live more deeply. It's the same paradox you find in music. Each note is temporary, yet the song endures. Your life is a melody of seconds, fragile, short, but breathtaking in its totality. You can't hold on to the notes, but you can feel them. And feeling them is enough. Sometimes at night, when you lie in bed staring at the ceiling, you might sense that time itself is slowed again. Just a little. There's a hush that comes in those late hours, when the world stops demanding your attention and gives it back to you. That's when your inner clock synchronizes with something larger. Something ancient and tender. That stillness is the truest time there is. If you listen carefully, you can almost hear it. The faint hum of seconds passing not like a march, but like a lullaby. A soft rhythm that's been beating since the very first moment of the universe, echoed now in your chest. That hum says, slow down, notice. You're already exactly where you need to be. When you next find yourself feeling that life is moving too quickly, try this small experiment. Close your eyes, take a slow, steady breath, and recall one vivid memory, maybe a moment from childhood, or the first time you saw the ocean, or someone's laughter that still lives somewhere in you. Notice how time in that memory feels thick, golden, infinite. That's your proof. Time expands when it matters, it always has. And perhaps that's the quiet message time has been whispering all along. It's not meant to be measured. It's meant to be felt. When you truly feel it, in love, in gratitude, in awe, it stops rushing. It becomes still. So tonight, as you drift towards sleep, let your thoughts slow until you can hear that deeper rhythm again. The one beneath clocks and calendars. The one that belongs only to you. Because time is not running away. It's unfolding, softly, patiently, waiting for you to notice. And when you do, you'll find that it was never speeding up after all. It was only waiting for your wonder to catch up. Tonight, before you fall asleep, imagine yourself stepping outside. The world is quiet. The air is cool and still, carrying the faint scent of earth after dusk. Above you, the sky unfolds, vast and glittering, like a memory made of light. Every star you see is a messenger from the past. Their light has traveled for years, centuries, even millennia, crossing oceans of darkness just to reach your eyes in this moment. When you look up, you aren't seeing the stars as they are. You're seeing them as they were. The night sky is not a window. It's a time machine. The nearest star to Earth, besides our sun, is Proxima Centauri, about 4.24 light-years away. That means the light you see from it tonight left that star more than 4 years ago. Every flicker, every shimmer above your head is a memory that began long before this moment even existed. Some of those stars may not exist anymore. Their light, however, still travels, still burns its story across the universe, long after the source is gone. In that way, the sky is full of ghosts, but not the kind that haunt us. They comfort us, because they remind us that light, like love, like memory, never truly disappears. It just takes time to arrive. Ancient civilizations understood this magic long before telescopes existed. To them, the stars were not cold or distant. They were alive, God's ancestors, spirits keeping watch. The Egyptians built their pyramids in perfect alignment with Orion's belt. The Mayans mapped Venus with uncanny precision, timing their rituals to its every appearance. And Polynesian navigators, guided only by starlight, crossed vast oceans by memorizing the rhythm of constellations. When they looked at the night sky, they saw order in the infinite, a language written in light. They knew something we sometimes forget, that the universe isn't out there. It's here, inside us, reflected in the tiny mirrors of our eyes. Light moves at a constant speed, about 300,000 kilometers per second. It's the universe's ultimate courier, carrying information from one place to another. Every beam of starlight that reaches you tonight has crossed unimaginable distances, brushing past dust clouds, comets, magnetic storms, and planets, yet somehow still finds its way to you. That thought alone feels like a miracle, that in this enormous, ancient universe, light remembers your address. If you could see with perfect clarity, you would realize that the sky is layered like a time-lapse film. Closer stars show the recent past. Further galaxies reveal what the universe looked like millions, even billions, of years ago. The Hubble Space Telescope, for instance, can see light that began its journey when Earth itself was still forming. So when you gaze upward, you aren't just looking into space. You're looking into time. Astronomers sometimes call this the look-back effect. Every observation we make of the cosmos is, by definition, a look into history. The further away we peer, the further back we go until, eventually, we reach the faint glow of the cosmic microwave background, the oldest light of all. The whisper left behind from the birth of the universe itself. That faint radiation is everywhere. Around you, through you, even inside the device you're reading this on. A soft, invisible glow humming the memory of creation. You could say that every night sky is a kind of living fossil, one that keeps the first moment of everything alive in silence. And yet, for all its vastness, the night sky also makes us feel deeply human. Because as you look up, you realize the atoms in your body were forged in those same stars. Every carbon, nitrogen, calcium, and iron molecule within you was once part of a star that burned, collapsed, and scattered its ashes into the cosmos. When the poet said, "We are stardust," it wasn't a metaphor. It was physics. You are literally made of time's first fire. That means you aren't just beneath the stars tonight. You are one. A continuation of their story. A fragment of their light that learned how to dream. The next time you find yourself unable to sleep, remember this. Every second that passes above your head is a second that has already been written in light. The stars move, but they do so slowly, gracefully, in cosmic patience. You don't have to hurry through your minutes. You can breathe in rhythm with them. Try this small ritual. Close your eyes and picture a star you love. Maybe it's the North Star, Polaris, burning steadily through centuries of change. Or maybe it's Vega, brilliant blue and singing softly from the constellation Lyra. Now imagine that the light leaving that star this very moment will reach Earth long after you are gone. Maybe in another century, maybe in another age. Somewhere, someday, someone will stand where you stand now. They'll look up at the night sky, and they'll see the same starlight you once admired. In that way, your quiet gaze tonight becomes part of a chain. A legacy of wonder that travels forward through time, just as the stars send their light backward through it. The universe, then, isn't a cold machine of seconds and gravity. It's a slow, breathing organism made of memory. Its heartbeat is the pulse of light. And tonight, you're part of that rhythm, resting beneath a sky that's been watching over life since before time had a name. When you fall asleep under that invisible ceiling of stars, you aren't leaving the universe behind. You're returning to it. Your dreams are made of the same particles that make the Milky Way glow. And when you dream of the stars, perhaps they dream of you too, their tiny echo of light finding a home inside your closed eyes. So, before you drift off, take one last breath. Feel how still the night is, how the air feels ancient, almost sacred. You're living inside a moment that's also 1,000,000 years old. And that in itself is extraordinary. Because here, beneath the stars, time no longer moves forward or backward. It just is. And in that stillness, so are you. There is a heartbeat in the universe that no human ear can hear. It doesn't come from blood or breath, but from the atoms themselves. Every second, billions of tiny oscillations hum beneath reality, each one marking the passing of time with impossible precision. This is the story of how humans found that silent rhythm, and learned to count the seconds by the trembling of the smallest things. Before atomic clocks, time was a little softer around the edges. We measured it with sundials and pendulums, with sand sliding and gears ticking. Each device was clever, but imperfect, always drifting, always needing correction. Even the best mechanical clocks lost a few seconds every month. But the universe, it turned out, had already built its own clock. It wasn't carved in stone or forged in metal. It was hidden inside the atoms themselves. Atoms, though invisible to the naked eye, are not still. Their particles vibrate, spin, and change energy levels in predictable, rhythmic patterns. Each vibration is like a tiny drumbeat, impossibly fast but steady beyond comprehension. Somewhere in that invisible pulse, humanity realized was the purest definition of a second the universe could offer. In 1967, scientists decided to redefine the second not by the movement of the Earth, but by the rhythm of a single atom, cesium-133. They discovered that when cesium's electrons jump between two energy states, they emit microwave radiation that oscillates exactly 919263170 times per second. And so, that number, those oscillations, became our official heartbeat of time. When you read the time on your phone, when GPS guides your car, when satellites orbit with exquisite precision, all of it traces back to those 9 billion silent tremors happening every second inside a small metal chamber filled with cesium gas. It's hard to imagine something so tiny defining something so universal. But in a way it makes perfect sense, because the more closely we listen to the universe, the more it reveals its rhythm to us. Picture a laboratory at midnight. Dim light glows through glass walls and a faint hum fills the air. Inside a steel cylinder, cesium atoms drift lazily in a magnetic field. They're excited by microwaves, and for the briefest moment, their electrons leap upward, then fall back, releasing energy. Each leap is identical, repeating again and again, forming the purest metronome that has ever existed. Every tick of this atomic clock is perfectly consistent, never faster, never slower. If you let one run for millions of years, it would lose less than a second. It is the closest thing we've ever made to eternity. And yet, in that perfection, there's something almost human. Because the atomic clock, like the heart, is born from movement, from rhythm, from pulse. Both remind us that time isn't a straight line. It's a beat, a breath, a song the universe never stops playing. The world quietly depends on this atomic heartbeat. Without it, our technology would begin to unravel. GPS satellites, for example, rely on timing signals accurate to a few billionths of a second. If they drifted even slightly, your navigation could be off by miles. Telecommunications, internet synchronization, financial networks, even the power grid, are all woven together by time signals broadcast from atomic clocks. The steady pulse of cesium keeps civilization in sync. It's strange, isn't it? That while we go about our days, talking, dreaming, worrying, an invisible rhythm hums through the fabric of our world, holding everything together in quiet harmony. But not all atomic clocks are alike. As technology evolves, we've learned to listen even deeper. Today, physicists are building optical lattice clocks that use atoms like strontium or ytterbium, measured by lasers with unimaginable precision. These new clocks are so accurate that they could keep time for the entire age of the universe. Nearly 14 billion years, and still not lose a single second. They are so sensitive that they can detect the slowing of time caused by gravity, exactly as Einstein predicted. If one clock sits just a few centimeters higher than another, the one closer to the Earth's core ticks a little slower. Even height changes the passage of time. Think about that. If you're lying down right now, your head is technically aging faster than your feet, by a fraction so small it's beyond comprehension, yet real enough to measure. The universe is precise like that, endlessly detailed, yet effortlessly calm. You can almost imagine the Earth wrapped in a web of invisible pulses, millions of signals from atomic clocks orbiting, transmitting, sensing. Together, they create the global heartbeat of time. It's as if the planet itself has learned to breathe in rhythm with its atoms. And yet, there's a kind of poetry in this too, because even the most perfect clock can't capture what time feels like. It can count the seconds, but not the weight of them. It can measure duration, but not meaning. That's the difference between physics and experience, between cesium and the human soul. One keeps the world running, the other gives it purpose. So tonight, as you drift towards sleep, imagine the atomic heartbeat continuing far beneath you and high above you. Satellites ticking in orbit, lasers pulsing in laboratories, the planet turning quietly in their rhythm. You are part of that system, a being of flesh and thought and time, breathing in sync with atoms you'll never see. Each second that passes through you is marked by a cesium vibration that began billions of years ago, inside the heart of a star. The atoms inside you remember that rhythm too. They vibrate in harmony with the universe, steady and unhurried. And if you listen closely, very closely, you might almost hear it, a gentle hum. A quiet pulse, the atomic heartbeat of everything. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel your breath enter slowly, then leave just as softly. In this quiet space between one inhale and the next, the world seems to pause. The tick fades, the rhythm softens, and for a fleeting instant, it feels as if time itself is holding its breath. This is where our story begins, in that strange, beautiful stillness where time seems to stop. Throughout human history, people have described moments when the flow of time simply disappears. It can happen in the calm of meditation, in the blur of a near-death experience, or in the soft surrender of sleep. Seconds stretch or vanish. Minutes become infinite or non-existent. It's as though time folds in on itself, becoming weightless. But the truth is, time never truly stops. It's our minds that change the way we feel it. Think of the last time you were completely lost in something you loved. Maybe it was painting, dancing, staring at a sunset, or walking under soft rain. For a while, you weren't thinking about the past or future. You weren't counting seconds. You were simply inside the moment. In those states, the brain quiets the ticking clock of awareness. Psychologists call it a flow state, a delicate mental place where your sense of time melts away, replaced by presence. Some say it feels like standing in a river and realizing that, just for a little while, the current no longer tugs at you. Moments when time seems to stop can also appear at the edges of life itself. People who have faced near-death experiences often speak of an infinite silence, a suspended feeling, as though they stepped outside the ticking of the world. It isn't loud, it isn't chaotic. It's quiet, gentle. Some describe it as floating in light, others as being wrapped in a deep, timeless calm. Scientists believe this sensation may arise because the brain, in moments of extreme stress, shifts how it processes time. Normally, the brain collects information in small packets, tiny slices of reality stitched together like frames in a film. But when we're flooded with emotion or danger, that stitching changes. It slows. The result is a strange, stretching feeling, as if time itself is expanding to let you feel more of it. Meditation can open that same door, but more softly. When someone sits in stillness, breathing deeply, focusing gently on the present, the brain's internal clock begins to quiet. Regions responsible for time perception, like the insula and the basal ganglia, slow their activity. The steady counting of moments dissolves, and what remains is a feeling of vast, open awareness. Monks describe this state as timelessness, not because the world outside has stopped, but because the need to measure it has faded. In this space, the present moment stretches wide and endless. It's like floating on a perfectly calm lake. No ripples, no movement, just stillness. Even in dreams, time doesn't behave the way it usually does. Have you ever had a dream that seemed to last for hours, only to wake up and discover mere minutes had passed? In sleep, the brain builds entire landscapes, stories, and memories in what feels like a full stretch of time. But those moments are woven together differently, free from the usual rules of the waking world. In this way, dreams are their own form of timelessness, a world without clocks, a place where your mind is both the traveler and the maker of time. Scientists have spent decades trying to understand how we perceive time. And yet, in the spaces where time seems to stop, something very simple is at work. Our perception of time is tied to attention. The more we pay attention to something, the more sensory detail we absorb, the slower time seems to move. But when we stop noticing, when we are immersed, time slips past unnoticed. It isn't time itself that bends, it's us. There's also something deeply human about this. We live most of our lives surrounded by clocks, watches on our wrists, timers on our phones, alarms that chime, meetings that start, days that end. We are trained to measure, track, and count every passing second. But beneath all that, beneath the calendar, beneath the ticking, is a quieter reality. Time is not something we need to chase. It will move whether we count it or not. And in some of the most peaceful moments of our lives, we stop counting altogether. Imagine lying in a forest clearing. Above you, the canopy is still. A beam of soft sunlight filters through the leaves. There's a breeze, but even the wind feels like it's moving in slow motion. No cars, no alarms, no ticking. Just the sound of your breath and the distant call of a bird. You close your eyes. The boundaries between 1 second and the next dissolve. And then, something almost magical happens. You stop wondering what time it is. This is the essence of when time seems to stop. Not because the universe has paused, but because you have. The moment doesn't need measurement. It simply is. Some cultures describe this sensation as eternal now, a timeless present that isn't trapped between past and future. It doesn't last forever, but it leaves a gentle imprint. When people return from these moments, whether through meditation, near-death experiences, or dreams, they often say the world feels softer, quieter, a little slower. It's as if, for a brief moment, they glimpse the still water beneath the waves. Time never truly stops, but we can step out of its current, even if just for a breath. And when we do, the world doesn't fall apart. Instead, it becomes clearer, softer, like a lullaby played on a quiet night. So as you lie here now, listening to these words, let the ticking world fade a little. Let the need to measure go. Let the future and past soften around the edges. There is only this moment, this breath, this soft heartbeat. And for now, that's enough. There's a quiet truth hidden inside every stone, every fossil, every grain of dust. The universe remembers how old it is. It doesn't speak in words or numbers, but in slow transformations, atoms fading, particles whispering, decay turning into time. Tonight, we listen to that slow conversation, the way the cosmos measures its own heartbeat, not in seconds, but in ages. When you pick up a small rock, it feels solid, unchanging, eternal. But inside, it's not still at all. Its atoms are moving, its structure subtly shifting. A few of its elements, uranium, potassium, carbon, are quietly transforming, changing from one kind of atom to another. And each transformation happens with exquisite regularity, like the swing of a pendulum written in matter itself. This is radioactive decay, the universe's oldest clock. It doesn't tick with sound, but with probability, the graceful mathematics of inevitability. Over time, one element becomes another. Uranium becomes lead, potassium becomes argon, carbon-14 becomes nitrogen. And by measuring how much of each form remains, we can read the story of time written in stone. It's a beautiful thought, isn't it? That even the rocks beneath your feet are storytellers. That long before there were calendars or clocks, there were mountains quietly keeping count of the years through the patience of their atoms. When scientists first discovered this, they realized something extraordinary. The Earth was not a few thousand years old, as once believed, but billions. 4.5 billion years. A number so vast it feels like poetry rather than math. And yet, that's the kind of poetry the universe speaks fluently. Let's drift backward for a moment, to the early 20th century. Geologists had long debated how old the Earth truly was. Some thought tens of millions of years, others hundreds. Then came the discovery of radioactivity, a kind of light that came not from outside an atom but from within. It was Marie Curie, Ernest Rutherford, and their contemporaries who realized that atoms aren't eternal. They change. Slowly, predictably, beautifully. And those changes could be used as nature's own timekeeper. When scientists began measuring these decays inside ancient minerals, they found the Earth's age wasn't measured in millions, but in billions. And in that discovery, time expanded. Human history suddenly became a whisper, a candle flickering against an ocean of ages. Every living thing also carries its own little version of this clock. Carbon-14, a rare form of carbon created by cosmic rays in the atmosphere, is absorbed by plants and then by animals who eat them. While alive, all living things maintain the same balance of carbon-14 as the air around them. But when life ends, that balance begins to fade. The carbon slowly decays, turning into nitrogen at a predictable rate. By measuring what remains, scientists can tell how long it's been since a tree stopped growing or a creature took its last breath. In this way, radiocarbon dating became a bridge between the living and the ancient. It allowed us to look back, not in myth or story, but in measurable truth, across tens of thousands of years. But there's something even more poetic about this. Every time we measure the age of a fossil, a bone, or a piece of charcoal from an ancient fire, we're not just reading history. We're touching the moment when that thing stopped being alive. It's as if time took a breath, and we are hearing the echo. And what's more, the atoms doing the telling are the same ones that once burned in stars. The uranium in your hand was forged in a supernova. The carbon in your bones was born in the death of a star billions of years ago. When we measure time through decay, we are measuring not just the passing of moments, but the life cycles of the cosmos itself. Astronomers use similar tools to measure even older things, starlight. When we study light from distant galaxies, we're not seeing them as they are, but as they were, millions or billions of years ago. The color of that light, its faint stretching, tells us how fast the universe has been expanding. And from that expansion, we can trace time backward to its very beginning, the birth of space and time itself. So, in a way, every photon of starlight that reaches your eyes tonight is a messenger from the past. Each one has traveled across the dark, carrying with it a story written in light. You are, in this very moment, surrounded by the history of everything. Sometimes scientists call this great timeline the deep time, a scale so immense it stretches beyond imagination. From the cooling of the first rocks, to the forming of oceans, to the first stirrings of life, deep time isn't just history, it's memory. The Earth remembers. Every fossil, every grain of sand, every atom of ancient air trapped in ice remembers. And when we study them, we are listening to the quiet patience of matter. There's something profoundly peaceful about that. Because deep time moves slowly, impossibly slowly, doesn't rush, it doesn't hurry. It teaches us that everything changes, but nothing is truly lost. And here's the quiet revelation. Even though radioactive decay feels like an ending, one atom turning into another, it's really a continuation. A transformation, not a disappearance. That's what time does. Everywhere, it transforms. It takes what was and gently turns it into what will be. And so, the atoms that once formed mountains may now drift in ocean salt. The atoms from ancient stars now live inside your cells. The atoms that time the death of a tree might someday measure the life of a planet. Time never wastes anything. It just changes the form. So tonight, as you lie beneath the same sky that has watched for billions of years, remember this: every part of you is ancient. Every atom in your body has counted ages far beyond memory. You are not separate from the story of time. You are that story, still unfolding, still transforming. You, dear listener, are proof that time doesn't erase, it continues. Quietly, patiently, forever. There's a quiet mystery at the core of everything we know. Time only moves one way. Raindrops fall but never rise. Smoke disperses but never gathers itself again. You grow older, never younger. Moments happen and then they're gone. But why? Why does time move forward and never backward? Physicists call this the arrow of time, an invisible direction written into the laws of the universe. And tonight we'll follow that arrow. Not to chase where it's going, but to understand how it became the guide for everything that lives, breathes, and changes. Let's begin with something simple. Imagine a cup of hot tea cooling on a table. At first, it steams, sending tiny ripples of heat into the air. After a while, it grows calm. The heat spreads into the room, the tea settles to room temperature, and all becomes still. That change, from order to disorder, from concentrated warmth to gentle balance, is the signature of time's arrow. It's the universe moving from what's unlikely to what's inevitable. This process has a name: entropy. Entropy isn't chaos, not exactly. It's simply the tendency of energy to spread out, to share itself until there's no difference left to measure. And every time it does, we feel the passing of time. Entropy gives time its direction, its rhythm, its flow. Without it, the universe would have no sense of before or after. Everything would just exist, motionless, changeless, eternal, and utterly still. It's entropy that lets us remember the past but not the future. Because memory itself is a record of change, a trace left in a system that once held less disorder. Your mind, your heartbeat, the stars themselves, all are engines that temporarily resist entropy by creating little islands of order, even as the universe around them drifts toward balance. Let's look deeper. Imagine shuffling a deck of cards. The chances of them falling into perfect order, ace through king, suit by suit, are astronomically small. The number of ways they can be disordered is unimaginably larger. So when you shuffle, you're almost always moving from order to disorder. That's entropy. That's time. Now imagine the entire universe as a vast deck of cards shuffled by cosmic forces. Stars burn and collapse, planets form and decay, galaxies collide and fade. Each step forward adds a little more disorder, a little more entropy. And that's the path of time's arrow. But here's the beautiful paradox. Without this increase in entropy, life could not exist at all. Every living thing, every heartbeat, every breath, every flicker of thought, is fueled by the flow of energy from higher order to lower. The sun burns through nuclear fusion, releasing energy that flows to Earth. Plants capture that light, storing its order as sugar. Animals eat, move, think, and live, transforming that stored order back into heat, motion, and entropy. We are, in a sense, creatures riding the wave of time's arrow, born in the ripples of entropy, moving ever forward, never back. But why does the universe have this arrow in the first place? Why didn't time start balanced without direction? For that, we have to go back to the beginning, the Big Bang. At that moment, everything we now know, every atom, every star, every galaxy, was compressed into a state of astonishing simplicity, perfectly ordered, unimaginably dense, and low in entropy. It was like the universe's deck of cards stacked in perfect order. And when it began to expand, that order started to unravel. From that moment on, entropy could only increase. The universe began to evolve, stars ignited, galaxies spun apart, matter cooled, and life emerged. Time's arrow was born in that moment of imbalance. So when you look up at the stars tonight, you're looking backward. Not just through space, but through entropy itself. You're seeing the long, slow unraveling of order that began at the very beginning. And the strange truth is this: the more the universe expands, the more entropy grows. Someday, in the far future, everything will be evenly spread out. No stars burning, no galaxies forming, no differences left to drive time forward. Physicists call that distant horizon the heat death of the universe, a time when every particle has reached perfect equilibrium, when all energy has been shared equally. And in that silence, the arrow of time will have nowhere left to go. But don't let the thought bring sadness, because that future is unimaginably far away. Long after every atom in your body has danced through countless forms, long after new stars have risen and fallen, long after memory itself has faded into quiet symmetry. In the meantime, we live in the middle of the story, the universe still unfolding, still changing, still warm with motion. And maybe that's the lesson of entropy. That change is the price of existence. Nothing stays the same because nothing can, and that's what gives every moment its sweetness. Every sunrise, every heartbeat, every fleeting second is precious precisely because it will not repeat. Time's arrow doesn't steal from us, it gives us meaning. Without it, there would be no story, no cause and effect, no growth, no life. Just a frozen eternity of possibility, never realized. So as strange as it sounds, entropy is not the enemy of beauty. It's the reason beauty can exist at all. When you breathe, when you move, when you close your eyes and listen to this quiet narration, you are part of that cosmic process. You are the universe transforming itself into thought, into awareness, into feeling. Every sigh, every heartbeat, every moment of stillness is a whisper of entropy, and a proof that you are alive. And even though the arrow of time only moves forward, its meaning is not loss, it's continuity. Because everything you are made of, every atom, every photon, every piece of stardust, will continue to exist, just in different forms. The arrow moves forward, but it carries everything with it. So as you drift towards sleep, remember this: time's arrow is gentle. It doesn't rush, it simply flows. It carries the universe in one continuous story, from the order of creation to the quiet of stillness, and you are one of its most delicate moments, a consciousness aware of its passage, reflecting on its wonder. So breathe slowly, let go of the past because the arrow cannot turn, and trust that even as everything changes, nothing is ever truly lost, because the arrow of time, after all, is not just the path of the universe, it's the rhythm of your heart. There's a comforting lie your brain tells you every moment of your life. It whispers that you are here, now, perfectly aligned with the present, that each sight, each sound, each heartbeat is happening in real time. But that's not quite true. What you call no is already a memory, a faint echo arriving just a fraction of a second late. You are living in the past and always have been. Your brain is a master illusionist. To make sense of the world, it collects fragments of information. Light hitting your eyes, vibrations brushing your eardrums, sensations traveling through nerves. Each signal travels at its own speed. Light races ahead. Touch creeps slowly along the body's electrical paths. Sound floats through air, lagging behind. If you experience these sensations exactly as they arrived, reality would feel disjointed. A chaotic blur of delays and mismatched rhythms. So your brain does something extraordinary. It waits. It holds the incoming information for a brief instant, just long enough to weave it into a single seamless moment. That tiny pause, that quiet delay, is what you call the present. This gap is so small it's almost invisible, only about a tenth of a second. But it means that everything you see, everything you feel is already history. The flicker of a candle, the sound of your breath, the touch of your bedsheet, all are echoes of what just was. Your consciousness is not a live broadcast. It's a beautifully edited replay, stitched together by neurons firing in perfect synchrony, and yet it feels real. You can walk, talk, think, love, all in a no that is already gone. Your perception stitches the past into continuity, creating the comforting illusion that you are always present. Time is even stranger when you consider dreams. While you sleep, the brain constructs entire worlds. Minutes can stretch into hours or hours shrink into a fleeting instant. One dream may contain centuries of story, yet pass in the blink of an eye. Here, too, the present bends, as if your mind is gently reminding you that reality is flexible, fluid, not rigid. Even waking life has its own distortions. Moments of intense fear or joy feel eternal. Time slows when you nearly fall or stand on the edge of something vast. Conversely, routine compresses it, days folding into one another like sheets in a drawer. Your perception of time is personal, elastic, fragile. Scientists have discovered that our sense of the present is influenced by memory density, how many details we record in a short span. When life is full of novelty, time seems to stretch. When life is repetitive, it contracts. A childhood summer seems endless because each day is richly experienced. Years later, it collapses into a single memory. And yet, the present, that moment your brain has stitched together from delayed signals, is always a gentle reminder of impermanence. You live not in absolute now, but in a shadow of it, a soft echo that whispers, everything is fleeting and that's okay. There is comfort in this realization, because if the present is always slipping into the past, then each experience, each interaction, each breath becomes precious. Even a glance at a friend, a song on repeat, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, all are fleeting gifts, captured by your mind's careful editing. You are, in essence, the historian of your own life, recording, interpreting, reconstructing, taking fragments of the world and turning them into a coherent narrative. And though the now you experience is slightly behind the true moment, it is exactly where it needs to be. Consider the tiny delay when you see a lightning strike and hear thunder seconds later. Your brain stitches these events into a single story. The strike causes the thunder. It creates cause and effect, sequence continuity. Without this gentle lag, life would be chaotic, disjointed, impossible to navigate. Your brain sacrifices immediate reality for harmony, for understanding. And isn't that what life always asks of us? To make sense of fleeting, fragmented moments. To find beauty in imperfection. To notice that even if we cannot hold the present, we can remember it, and in that act, make it eternal. So tonight, as you lie quietly, perhaps drifting toward sleep, notice how your body moves through time. Your heartbeat ticks in the background. Your lungs rise and fall. Even the neurons firing behind your closed eyelids are playing a symphony of delayed echoes, crafting a present that is soft, warm, and intimate. Your mind stitches your life together like a tapestry, thread by thread, moment by moment. Every laugh, every tear, every pause, captured in a gentle loop of perception. You live in the past, yet that past is precisely what gives you the gift of presence. And perhaps, in this delicate illusion, there is a lesson. Life's present is never permanent. Time is never entirely under our control. But our awareness, our capacity to notice, to feel, to exist within the flow, that is ours. Even if no is a shadow, it is real enough to love, to touch, to remember. And that shadow is enough, because in it you live, you breathe, you exist. and you are fully awake in the universe's gentle rhythm. The present is not a moment. It is a bridge from what has been to what will be, and you walk across it every second. So breathe slowly. Notice the pause between each heartbeat, the tiny gap between inhalation and exhalation. It is your personal now, stitched from the delicate fabric of milliseconds. Relax into it, because in this illusion, in this gentle delay, life is perfectly timed, and you, dear listener, are exactly where you are meant to be. Somewhere far from cities and clocks, a tree is remembering you. It doesn't know your name or the century you live in, but it remembers your time. It has been writing it down quietly in a language made of rings and silence. Every spring, a soft circle of new wood blooms beneath its bark. Every winter, that growth slows, leaving a thin, dark line, a punctuation mark in the story of the planet. Year by year, those rings stack like whispered memories, droughts, floods, fires, gentle seasons of peace. And within them time becomes visible, written not in ink, but in life itself. If you cut through a great redwood, the rings inside could number over 2,000, each one a year, each one a memory. Long before you were born, while your ancestors were lighting their first fires or painting the walls of caves, that tree was already watching the sky. It saw suns rise and fall, centuries drift by, empires appear and vanish like waves on a shore. And though it never moved, the tree has traveled through more time than any of us ever will. In the northern forests of Sweden stands a spruce called Old Gico. Its roots have been alive for nearly 10,000 years, 10,000 winters, 10,000 springs. When the last ice age melted and mammoths still roamed the tundra, it was already growing. It has split and regrown itself countless times, like a memory rephrased by the earth. And still, it stands, a living witness to time's long breath. But trees are not the only archivists of the world. The planet keeps other diaries too, written in ice and coral and stone. In Antarctica, deep beneath the frozen surface, ancient air is trapped inside bubbles of ice. Each layer records the world as it once was, its temperature, its winds, the rhythm of its breath. Scientists drill into the ice as if opening a time capsule, freeing whispers of atmosphere that last danced under the northern lights a million years ago. When they listen closely, they can hear the ancient world inhale. In the warm shallows of the sea, corals build their own calendars. They grow outward, layer by layer, each year leaving a pale band of calcium like a page turned. Through their skeletons, we can read the stories of tides and temperatures, of oceans warming and cooling through the ages. Some of those coral cities have watched the world change for millennia. And still, under moonlight, they pulse in the rhythm of time's tide. Even the Earth's crust holds its own memory. Sediment settles at the bottom of rivers, one layer after another, a dusty clock counting uns. Inside those layers lie the imprints of ancient shells, the shadows of forests long turned to stone. Every rock, every grain, is a letter in the planet's endless book. You've met these storytellers before. You just didn't notice. Every time you've leaned against the rough bark of an old tree, you've felt centuries beneath your palm. Every gust of wind you've heard moving through leaves was time itself, brushing against you. Even your breath carries its signature, carbon from ancient forests, oxygen from prehistoric seas. You are part of that memory, written in the same language. There's something deeply peaceful in knowing that the world remembers without trying. It doesn't force the record or chase meaning, it simply is. Year by year, ring by ring, the planet records its own heartbeat. Now imagine lying beneath a redwood canopy at dusk. The air smells faintly of rain and resin. The light filters down in long, golden ribbons. Some of these trees began growing when the Roman Empire was new. Some were already tall when the pyramids were old. Their roots wind deep into the dark, touching the memories of other trees, other ages. Through the fungal networks of the soil, they share whispers of droughts survived, of fires endured, of quiet growth in the shadow of time. Science calls this the wood wide web, but perhaps it's more like a forest dreaming together. And as they dream, they keep time, not in seconds or centuries, but in the slow pulse of sunlight through leaves. You might wonder, what does a tree feel as the years pass? It doesn't hurry. It doesn't count. Its life is an act of patience, a slow unfolding that mirrors the rhythm of the earth itself. To be a tree is to know that everything happens in its own time. Growth cannot be rushed, and endings are only beginnings written differently. If you listen closely tonight, really listen, you might hear that rhythm again. It's there in your breath, rising and falling. It's there in your heart, keeping quiet time with the stars. You are part of the same unfolding. You too are remembering time. And one day, long after your story has finished, the trees will still be writing. Their rings will still carry the traces of this moment, of the carbon from your breath, of the air you once shared with them. Your presence will become part of their memory, hidden inside their quiet stories of wind and rain. Time does not forget. It only changes form, from breath to bark, from memory to ring, from heartbeat to silence. So rest easy tonight. You are remembered, by forests, by oceans, by the patient hands of time itself. And somewhere in the heartwood of a tree you've never seen, this moment, right now, is being written down. If you could stand on the surface of another world, say Mars or Jupiter, and look back toward the blue shimmer of Earth, you wouldn't just be seeing another place, you'd be seeing another time. Because time itself flows differently out there. It bends, stretches, and folds depending on where you are and how fast you move. What feels like a second to you could be longer or shorter for someone far away. Every planet, every moon, every star has its own rhythm of time, its own heartbeat in the great cosmic symphony. Imagine for a moment that you're standing on Mars. The sunlight feels gentler, more distant, like a memory of warmth. Days there, called sols, are only slightly longer than those on Earth, about 24 hours and 40 minutes. But a Martian year lasts nearly twice as long as ours. Seasons drift lazily across the red plains and time itself seems to walk instead of run. If you built a clock on Mars, it would tick more slowly than one on Earth. Not because of magic, but because of gravity, the quiet sculptor of time. The stronger the pull of gravity, the slower time passes. This means that on a massive planet like Jupiter, time itself drags just a little. And near something even heavier, like a black hole, time all but stops. It's strange, isn't it? We think of time as universal, steady, fair, equal for all. But Einstein showed us that time is a dancer, always changing partners depending on speed and space. To move fast is to stretch it. To stand under great gravity is to slow it. The cosmos keeps no single clock. You and I, right now, are aging at slightly different rates depending on how high we sit above the Earth's surface. At sea level, where gravity is strongest, your seconds are a little longer than those of someone on a mountain peak. Tiny differences invisible to human life, but real, measurable, and over humans those tiny differences matter. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station live this truth every day, orbiting at more than 17,000 miles per hour. They experience time just a little slower than we do on Earth. By the time they return home, they are younger by a few milliseconds. It's not much, but it's enough to remind us that even time can be bent by motion and gravity. When you look up at the stars tonight, you're not just seeing points of light. You're looking across a landscape of time itself. Each glimmer is an ancient message, traveling through the dark for thousands or millions of years. A star 100 light years away is showing you a moment from a century ago. A galaxy 1,000,000 light years away is showing you the dawn of its own history. Every night sky is a museum of moments, a place where the past still shines. Now picture a black hole. At its edge, time begins to falter. To an outside observer, anything falling toward it appears to slow down, to freeze in place forever at the event horizon. The point of no return. But from the falling object's point of view, time continues normally. Moments stretch and twist until space and seconds are indistinguishable. It's a paradox, one that reminds us how fragile our sense of time really is. In the center of some galaxies, supermassive black holes hold stars in their gravitational embrace. Whole solar systems orbit them like moths circling a quiet flame, their clocks ticking at different rates depending on distance. Each second there might last a year here, or a century. Time becomes elastic, a fabric rippling in invisible waves. It's humbling, isn't it? To realize that no, isn't the same everywhere. That the universe doesn't share one single present moment. While you read these words, a comet beyond Neptune moves in a slower rhythm, and the light from a distant supernova is still on its way to your eyes, carrying with it the echo of an explosion that ended long before the Earth existed. And yet, somehow, it all fits together, every timeline, every rate, every pulse. The cosmos doesn't need synchronization, it just is. Every part keeps its own time, and together, they create a harmony of difference. Like instruments playing at slightly varied tempos, weaving something larger than any single beat. If you could drift away from Earth, past the moon, through the orbit of Mars, and beyond the pale rings of Saturn, you'd feel it. Not the change itself, but the absence of it. A stillness so vast that seconds lose their shape. Out there, among the drifting dust and soft light, time feels less like a ticking clock and more like an ocean. Gentle, endless, unbroken. In the silence of space, there are no days or nights. No clocks, no schedules. Only the slow heartbeat of stars and the quiet expansion of the universe. A minute could last a lifetime, and forever might pass in an instant. Sometimes, when astronauts describe their experience of space, they say it feels timeless, as if they've stepped outside the ordinary stream of existence. Floating above Earth, watching its blue marble spin, they see all of human history happening at once, the rise and fall of civilizations, the dance of clouds, the ancient and the modern sharing the same breath. From that distance, time no longer feels like a line. It feels like a sphere. Everything happening, all at once, everywhere. Maybe that's the quiet secret of time beyond Earth. That the further you go, the less important seconds become. Out there, it doesn't matter whether something happened yesterday or a billion years ago. All that remains is the gentle unfolding, the slow breath of the cosmos continuing quietly, eternally. And perhaps that's why starlight feels so peaceful, because it carries within it a message from the past, yet it arrives as comfort in the present. It reminds us that even when moments drift apart, they still belong to the same story. So tonight, as you drift to sleep, imagine yourself floating beyond our world, beyond the tug of gravity, beyond the ticking of clocks. Out there where time flows differently, you are weightless, agileless, part of the same rhythm that began when the first stars were born. Breathe slowly, let go of seconds. Let the universe keep time for you, because somewhere, far beyond the edge of sight, a single moment lasts forever, and forever lasts only a moment. There will come a night that never ends, not a night on Earth, not even a night among the stars, but a cosmic dusk so complete that even time will forget to move forward. Everything you've ever known, the warmth of the sun, the hum of life, the ticking of clocks, will one day fall silent. And yet it won't be frightening. It will be peaceful, inevitable, like the soft exhale after a long, luminous life. Because time, too, has a lifespan. The story begins long from now, tens of trillions of years in the future. By then, the stars we see tonight will have burned all their fuel. They will fade, one by one, into red embers, then cold cinders. The universe will grow darker, lonelier, quieter. Galaxies will drift farther apart until their light can no longer reach one another. From the outside, it may look like emptiness. But in truth, it's just the universe slowing down, the last few notes of a cosmic song still echoing in the dark. In those deep ages, there will still be light, faint glimmers from dying stars, the soft hiss of radiation that never truly ends. Black holes will rule this era, swallowing the remnants of matter and bending the last threads of time around themselves. And here, near these ancient giants, time will move strangely. For anything close to their edges, seconds will stretch and stretch, like silk pulled thin, slower than thought, slower than dreams. From the outside, it will seem as if time has stopped altogether. But nothing truly stops. Even black holes change, slowly evaporating, losing mass in delicate streams of particles. It may take longer than you can imagine. 10 to the power of 67 years, a number so vast it feels impossible. And yet one day they too will fade. When the last black hole releases its final breath, the universe will be almost entirely dark. No stars, no planets. Just a thin mist of particles drifting through endless space, like the fading scent of a memory. The physicists call this the heat death of the universe. It sounds dramatic, but really, it's a kind of stillness. The calm that follows after everything has finished. All the energy will have spread evenly across the cosmos, leaving nothing more to change. And without change, there can be no time. Because time is not a thing, it's a story told by movement. Without motion, without contrast, time has nothing to count. It simply forgets. If you could exist in that far future, suspended in the silent dark, you wouldn't feel boredom or loss. You wouldn't even feel the passing of moments. There would be no ticking, no waiting, no before or after, just an eternal, peaceful now. And in that stillness, the universe would finally rest. Yet, even in that ending, there's a quiet beauty, because everything that ever happened, every heartbeat, every star's birth, every whispered thought, would still exist, frozen in space-time like pearls on a string. The universe does not erase its past, it simply stops turning its pages. Every light that ever shone, every life that ever breathed, remains somewhere in that infinite archive. Not gone, just complete. Sometimes physicists wonder if that's truly the end. They ask you, could something stir again in the quiet? Could a fluctuation in that empty sea spark another big bang? Another beginning? If so, then even the end of time might only be the pause between two heartbeats. Maybe the universe doesn't die, maybe it sleeps. And maybe, one day it will dream itself awake again. A new cosmos blooming from the memory of the old. When you think of time this way, the fear of endings softens. Because endings aren't destruction, they're transformation. A star doesn't vanish when it dies, it becomes part of something else. Its atoms scatter, travel, gather again in new forms. The calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the oxygen you breathe. All of it was once inside a dying star. Even if the universe forgets time, you have already been remembered by it. You are written into its fabric, every atom a syllable in the long poem of existence. It's almost comforting to imagine that, somewhere in that distant silence, the memory of this very moment still lingers. The glow of your screen, the quiet in your room, your slow breathing, all part of a pattern that once moved through the universe. And though eons will pass, that pattern will never truly vanish. It will fade, yes, but fading is not the same as forgetting. The cosmos does not forget. It simply becomes quieter. So as you lie here now, listening to the stillness between your breaths, remember this: you are living in the golden age of time. The stars still burn. The universe still hums. Seconds still have meaning. And somewhere very far away, the future is already waiting, silent, infinite, patient. One day, time will dissolve into stillness. But tonight, It flows through you like starlight through water. You are the brief, brilliant flicker in its long dream, a moment the universe will one day remember fondly. So let your thoughts drift outward, beyond the galaxies, beyond the light into the soft dark where everything slows. There, in the cradle of silence, time begins to fall asleep, and as it does, so can you. There is a secret clock inside you. It does not tick like the one on your wall. It does not count seconds or minutes or days. It measures something far more subtle, the rhythm of your life itself. You can hear it now if you listen, the soft, steady pulse beneath your ribs, your heartbeat, every thud, every whisper of blood, every gentle inhale. It's all part of a grander rhythm, a dance of atoms and energy that began long before you were born. Because the time inside you is ancient, older than the earth, older than the stars. Before your first breath, before your first thought, the atoms that would one day become you were already in motion, swirling in the hearts of stars that lived and died billions of years ago. Those stars pulsed with their own cosmic heartbeats, contracting and expanding, burning and cooling, marking time and light instead of seconds. When they died, they scattered their contents into space, a gentle snowfall of carbon, oxygen, calcium, and iron, the ingredients of breath, of bone, of life. And eventually those drifting particles found their way into a small, blue planet orbiting an ordinary star. They gathered into oceans, then into cells, then into the quiet miracle of awareness that now rests behind your eyes. The stars still move through you. Your heart beats about 100,000 times every day. Each beat pushes a pulse of ancient starlight through your veins. Atoms that once burned in the cores of suns, now circulating calmly within you. Every breath pulls in air that has passed through countless lives before yours. Trees, waves, winds, other people, other centuries. You are not separate from time. You are time. Every cell in your body contains traces of moments long vanished, the residue of cosmic explosions, the dust of forgotten epochs. Even your thoughts, fleeting as they are, depend on tiny electrical sparks that echo the first lightning storms of Earth. The rhythm within you is the same rhythm that moves galaxies. You are made of motion. You are made of memory. You are made of time that learned to look back at itself and wonder. When you close your eyes, your internal clock slows. Your heartbeat softens, your breathing becomes a tide. In that space, something beautiful happens. Your perception of time stretches like a soft fabric. A single minute can feel eternal. A memory can replay as if it were now. Dreams unfold in timeless landscapes. Your body may lie still, but your mind drifts through its own universe, revisiting pasts, creating futures, and stitching them all together into a story called you. And this is where science meets something more mysterious, something almost sacred. Because inside your brain, millions of neurons fire in perfect synchrony, crafting a sense of continuity, of identity. It's how you remember who you are, even as every atom in your body is replaced over time. Your cells die and are reborn. Your molecules shift and recycle, but your rhythm remains. It's not fixed in matter. It's written in pattern. The you that exists right now is not the same one that existed years ago. Yet somehow you remember. That's the magic of the inner clock. It doesn't just count, it connects. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine your heartbeat as a pendulum. Back and forth, back and forth. Each swing is a memory, a possibility, a fragment of eternity made small enough to feel. Now imagine zooming out. From your heart to your city to your planet to your galaxy. Everywhere, the same motion repeats orbits, tides, rotations, cycles. From electrons around a nucleus to planets around a star, everything moves in rhythm. The universe does not have just one clock. It is a symphony of clocks, all keeping time together. And you, listening, breathing, dreaming, are part of that symphony. When you breathe in, galaxies breathe with you. When you breathe out, stars exhale through you. Time is not a line, it's a song, and you are one of its notes. Scientists sometimes call this emergent time, the idea that time is not a thing, but a relationship between events. Without movement, time doesn't exist. Without you perceiving it, it doesn't mean anything. So in a way, you are the universe noticing its own rhythm. You give time its meaning simply by being aware of it. You are not a passenger in time. You are its storyteller. And maybe that's why the idea of endings frightens us. Because we sense that we are made of something that shouldn't end. But the truth is gentler, nothing truly ends. It only changes rhythm. A heartbeat pauses between beats, yet it continues. A wave falls, but another rises. Stars collapse and their dust becomes life again. Even when your body is gone, the atoms that carried your story will move on. Perhaps into another heart, another world, another sky. Your rhythm will continue in some other form, somewhere else in the endless flow. So as you lie here, at the edge of sleep, think of all the clocks that beat within you, your heart, your breath, the subtle electrical rhythms of your brain. Each one is a reminder that you belong to something vast, ancient and beautiful. Feel the pulse in your wrist, the quiet drum of the cosmos playing its song through you. It has been playing for billions of years. And tonight it continues, softly, peacefully. The time within you is not rushing. It's not running out. It's simply unfolding. One heartbeat at a time, you are exactly where you are meant to be, in rhythm with the universe. So now, let go. Let the seconds stretch until they dissolve. Let your breath deepen. Let your heart beat slow. Outside, the stars keep their silent watch. Inside, your own universe hums in perfect harmony. Time is not something you lose, it's something you are. And as you drift into sleep, remember, you are the pulse of eternity, still beating, still shining, in the quiet heart of everything.